What is up? How do you make main menus or even a skill tree for your game? A skill tree main menu where you can unlock skills, and there's only so many skill points you can unlock, or have or gain, so you can't unlock all the skills in one game, adding to the replay value. This is how you would do that. These are all assets that you can find in the Dreamverse, and if I press X right here, I've only made one thing that you can unlock, but by using the same system of AI, you can make other options for your skill tree like we have here. And I am moving my cursor beacon up and down the red thing, and that is just a effect. That's just an effect. It moves up and down with keyframes, but it's moving up and down because of a control sensor sending a signal to a selector, and whenever the selector is sending the signal through whatever port, it'll move the red beacon to the appropriate branch, and you can only unlock it if it is on the right branch. So we'll go ahead and unlock this now. And I have the emitter. I pressed L1 and X on the red orb. I put a text displayer inside of the red orb. After pressing L1 and X on it, that is the emitter. And then I had to emit the spark. So that's why the sparks are following it, because I pressed L1 and X on that red thing, then I put the emitter inside of it, making the emitter a part of that painting object asset. Then I put a text displayer inside of there the same way, and that's why unlock press X is there following it also. So I only made it to where you can unlock two things. There is no resurrection attack yet. So let's go ahead and test out and see if the attacks were unlocked. What I'm going to do is go ahead and I'm pressing square to go to the main menu. You can choose different buttons for your game. You don't have to choose the same buttons as me. So this right here is what is our life skill. For the other branches, you can make other variables, such as if you wanted to make a pickpocket or a stealth variable for the branch, you would just make a different variable for that, and then use the same logic as we do with the first branch. So this is our life skill object. If life skill is greater than 0.44, it sends a result to a AND gate, and if you press the appropriate button from the control sensor inside of the puppet, while this is the right value, in other words, you unlocked it by increasing your life skill, then it sends off a signal to the timeline. You can check out my button press tutorial if you guys want to know how to make it to where you can do single button presses instead of if you hold it, then it'll keep doing the thing over and over again. I do have a disable option inside of each timeline right here. So this is an on switch, and while this is going on, it disables the ability to use the control sensor. But you don't have to do it that way for yours unless you want to. The second attack, skill level has to be over 1.99, so in other words, at least at 2 or above, to unlock the second attack, and its AND gate is the same way, but a different button, if that makes sense. What you'll want to do, and I'll probably have a part 2 for this tutorial, if you guys want to make a menu to where you can actually click on icons that represent your unlocked skills. So let's say you can only have 3 of them on at the same time. You guys can do that using this same kind of technique if you guys want to. It's really simple. If you want to make it to where you can only have so many skills on at once. So let's go ahead and get into the main logic for the main menu. Let's go ahead and go back and show you guys more of this so you guys can see it one more time. And then we will go ahead and go, we're going to press square. So I'm pressing the button that is attack 2 after you unlock it. And notice it's not coming on because we haven't unlocked it yet. But if I press attack 1, this one is unlocked. We just unlocked it. So now we're going to go back to our skill tree. If I press here, nothing happens. Press here, we unlock our thing and lose our points because we just unlocked it with the appropriate amount of points. Now our thing is set to 0. And you can't unlock resurrection because I haven't programmed that yet, but if you want to add more to your skill tree, then just do the same methods that we are about to show you with the main logic for the tree whenever you're in the tree menu area. What you want to do is make it to where the tree area is underneath your stage, For me, that's the best method if you don't want to make another dream just for your thing. Make sure your variables are all on persist, the ones that need to be. That means they'll stay the same room by room. And make sure you put the same variables in each room and them on persist. So let's go ahead and see if we unlock the next attack. That's attack 1. This is attack 2. So we were able to unlock it. Everything seems to be working perfectly. Let's go ahead and talk about the logic, the main logic for this game. I'm going to go ahead and go down here. It's not that complicated, but there's a lot of stuff to it, and it looks really complicated because I don't have any of this inside of a microchip, but it's not that complicated. The main thing to remember is the selector right here, So this right here is what is moving our orb up and down. A remote control sensor. Put it on remote right here. Put that into the left stick into a splitter. Put the Y into 1 into the A, should be a less than, and 1 into the A of a greater than. Put the greater than sign, 0.18 up here, and this one should be like negative 0.18 or whatever, 0.17. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you can actually get those numbers perfect if you just mess with them to where if you move left and right, then nothing will happen. So the result for the greater than, let's move to previous, and the result for the less than is moved to next output. Now it could be different for yours depending on how you have the layout of the movement of the orb, so just remember that. Right here I have a sun and sky making the black background. Just copy the settings here. You can pause the video if you want to and copy the settings right here. Make it brighter also. Right here is the camera, so whenever we press square, this camera activates and it makes it a fixed camera that can't move. This is our X button. Pull out a signal manipulator, copy my settings right here, put this on, and put this on right here, and you should be good. Then put the X button right here. Whatever you want it to be your clicker button. The clicker button activates the orbs. We're going to have to turn on this, I think. There we go. Turn off the painting. The clicker button activates the orb's emitter right here. So this is actually the orb right here. And I can show you it's the orb if I press this. That's the red orb. So I pressed L1 and X on the red orb, and then I put the unlock thing inside of the red orb to where it moves with the orb, and then I also put the emitter inside of here with these settings. You can mess with the emit time and put it on recycle. Make sure this is on 0, and you can also have it emit with wires if you want to. And whenever it says emit with wires, it's talking about the sparks that come out, not the red orb. So what I'm going to do, press play, then I'm going to press square real quick, just so everything is instantly visible. So if I press L1 and X inside of on our orb, I just want you guys to be able to understand this. If we press L1 and X on our orb, I'm going to put this on invisible. Eventually, we'll be able to see this. Whenever you press L1 and X on your object, that's when you can start placing stuff inside of the object, inside of the red orb. So it might put you into paint or sculpt mode if you do that. If it does, press the button that comes up here and then place down your gadgets. That should be all you have to do, or you can look up a painting or whatever in the Dreamverse if it's hard. place down this kind of thing, press whatever button to unlock, whatever button you're going to choose, and then place down the emitter, connect the signal manipulator that has the X button and the input into the power, and then have the emitter emit something that will symbolize whenever you press X. On object, just emit it. You can make a sound effect happen when you press X. If you do that, you might have to have it emit with wires, I'm not sure. And that's our logic for the red orb that is a part of the X button with the red orb. Next, what you want to do is pull out a selector. We just talked about the selector, but what we're going to do is with keyframes, we're going to move the red orb to the appropriate branches that symbolize what skills we can pick. Do that with the keyframe on the red orb. And they shouldn't need to be on keep changes because the lights usually stay on whenever you go down through them. So remember this logic for all the other letters that you're going to do. You can group together gadgets to where once you're done with the logic for one letter, so right, you can just copy it and then put it into the B to where you don't have to redo all of this stuff that you see right here in the back, because it'll already be done and you cloned it. All you'll have to do is change the variables around for what they unlock for your character. So what does A go into? A is going into a AND gate, and it's also going into another AND gate. One AND gate is for the first option that you click, and you can use your own logic for this if you want to, for this part, if you know a different way that you can do it, but this is the way that I'm going to do it. So if we click X the first time and unlock the first skill, and if we have enough points to correlate with it, what'll happen is it'll increase the count of a counter to full. That's what the result is. Whenever this is full, it turns on a switch that turns on this timeline. This timeline is a light and this light is just to indicate that you clicked the right thing and you just unlocked it. This action recorder is the leaf. I downsized the leaf and then I upsized it with the action recorder while it was recording. These are the settings for this on once. So A is inside of a AND gate also. It's inside of the D. This is for our second click when we can unlock the second attack. That's what this is. So A also is plugged into an AND gate. that is our first click when we unlock our first thing. And then A is also plugged into an AND gate, where if everything is lit up right here, which means we have the right we've unlocked enough to be able to unlock our second attack, that's why these are lit up, then this one can activate if we have enough skill points. If we have enough skill points for the first one, then I'll activate that one, which is our first attack, and the second AND gate is for the second attack we can unlock from our skill tree. And again, if you just want to use this method for a main menu without the skill tree stuff, you can, because I realize this is a good main menu tutorial also. So pull out a skill exp variable, plug it into a number displayer, number range. Put the output also inside of a calculator. If calculator is greater than 3, or no, if it's greater than 1, I put 0.99, not what you see here. Then the result will put it on plus skill exp, take your skill exp down by 1, put it on power on, and this is to unlock our first attack. Put the X button from this control sensor that was set to remote inside of the B, and the A inside of the selector. So if you have enough skill points and you press that A or X for C right here, or maybe it's B, and you are in the right spot on the branch. The branches are symbolized by the selector right here, and you have enough skill points and press the right button, X, it sends off a result to take down your skill points by 1. Increase this counter, which starts up this timeline. And I do believe this keyframe is what's turning on the leaf's visibility, and maybe the light right here. I do believe that's what that's doing, or maybe it's something in here. What this keyframe is doing is turning on the life skill, powering it on. And the life skill variable is the thing that allows you to do your attack that you unlocked. So if this variable is greater than 0.9 in the calculator that we see, this is our life skill variable. If it's greater than 0.44, in other words, the first thing you unlock, then and you press X, then you can now use your new skill. And that's what this AND gates results are plugged into. Something that allows you to have your new skill on your character, represented by the variable. It turns on something that makes the leaf that you unlocked, or visible. Then it also turns on the timeline with a on switch. I'm using a counter for this because I found it easier for me to use a counter. So the result for this is plugged into the counter. When counter is full, it turns on and keeps on the timeline here. As you can see. because the on switch is inside of there. And finish timer or finish counter is inside of the on switch. And then it also keeps on this keyframe that is most likely turning off the AND gate that allows you to unlock the first skill. That way you can't waste any more skill points trying to unlock that one. So that's what's keeping this AND gate off. So that way if you press X again and you have more than 2, you won't unlock the same skill over and over again, because the AND gate to unlock it is turned off by this counter being on all the time. Finish count inside of here turns off this AND gate, and it probably turns on the second AND gate, or maybe the second AND gate is just always on. We'll get into that here in a second. Inside of the timeline that I've been talking about, what this does is makes this visible, turns on the light, and I do believe this keyframe turns or changes this calculator from 0 up here to whatever's higher down here. Just make this a number that this can be higher than, and with the calculator record this higher than the number down here. So let's go ahead and talk about this one. If you press X and you're on A, in other words, the first branch, so that's why you put A selector into here, and you press X, that's the C, and this calculator raises by this right here, is great enough to work, and this is the keyframe that changes the number higher than the bottom number down there. And make sure this keyframe is not at the beginning, put it like somewhere in here around the midpoint. It's basically so you can't you won't unlock it, the attack too fast, so that way you can choose to unlock something else. And if your skill points, pull out another calculator, are greater than 2, in other words 1.99, that's why you choose 1.99 instead of 2, and you press X, then it'll make your skill EXP go down by 2, put it on these settings, it'll increase your skill life or life skill to 2 to where you can use the next attack, and it will play a action recorder that turns off the text that you see right there that says life scar. It's doing all that, and then it turns on a different text displayer at the end. And that's what this is doing. You'll want to have it on these settings and on once. Once, keep changes, and then you can mess with everything else. And if you want to make it to where you can unlock a third skill, you want to make sure that this AND gate gets turned off somehow. That way you can't purchase it with skill points anymore. which is why we turned off the first AND gate where we unlocked our first attack. So that way we can't waste our skill points on something we already unlocked. There is a keyframe right here, which is for the first thing that we unlock. I do believe this keyframe is turning this on, but I decided to make it to where a on switch just turns it on. It could be doing something else, so let me know in the comment section if this tutorial, if there's something I left out, and I will help you out as much as I possibly can. Rewatch this tutorial as many times as you need, because I did not put this stuff in a microchip, but I explained all of it thoroughly to where you can understand it, the process of it, to where you can do your own logic for it. Just make sure you're doing the things that I do that are mainly needed, if that makes sense. But you should be able to do everything that I did, and I recommend putting it inside of a microchip so it doesn't look as confusing as this. So right now I'm just double checking these keyframes to make sure I explained everything. This keyframe right here is just making this leaf visible, I do believe. And this AND gate, or not AND gate, this action recorder is what upsized this leaf. So we're going to go ahead and go to the leaf real quick, see what this keyframe did exactly. Yeah, it changed the visibility. And that's all it did, was turned it on visible. It's on keep changes, and it's the result of the first AND gate. Then we have this keyframe right here that's connected to the counter when counter full. This keyframe is doing. Is turning off the life drain gadget text box to where we don't see that while we're trying to unlock our second skill. You might want to keep this on keep frame changes. So what I mean is, the reason why we have that one connected to counter full most likely is because it's the life drain skill. And we don't want to see that while we're trying to unlock, the second one. So make sure you have something that's turning off the text whenever you're ready to see the next attack you can unlock. And for me, that was this keyframe. The results of this AND gate. Make sure it's on keep changes. And all this stuff in here is just indicators and turning on the leaf and stuff like that. That should be all this stuff in here that's in this timeline. Make sure, again, that this keyframe right here, that makes it to where your calculator for the second skill that you can unlock, make sure that's all the way like near the end, so that way you can't unlock something too fast if you're holding the X button, and then you'll lose your points if you want to use your points for something else. That's why that's right there. And that's why we have that calculator. What you basically want to do is make sure there's calculators that are stopping things from happening too quickly. That's why I'm using calculators. And you can use keyframes to change the top part. You don't have to put a variable in there. That's why I use the calculator. So again, if you just wanted to use this for a main menu, you can without all the extra stuff that's hard back here. If there's anything you feel I left out, let me know in the comment section below and I'll help you out as much as I possibly can. This is my skill tree tutorial, and I hope this helps you guys understand how to make menus and skill trees in Dreams PS4. It's all about keeping things invisible and visible whenever you unlock them, and then changing the variables for your character so that way he can have the skills that you just purchased. So that's all it is. And then there's calculators that are stopping things from happening, and calculators that are keeping things on. And there's an on switch doing that also, and gates for the requirements to unlock things. That's what the and gates are for. And this is the variable skill EXP. So if you were to destroy an enemy, defeat enough enemies, and you gain skill EXP, whenever the destroyer activates, and once object destroyed, it increases this, or your level. That's how you would do that. So object destroyed, put the signal inside of this signal inside of a variable modifier that increases your skill EXP or your level whenever you need to, whenever you met the requirements for that. That's what that is. And there's a sun and sky, a camera right here so we can look at the tree. This turns on whenever we press square. Then we have our remote control sensor. So let's go ahead and get into how you can do this. Make sure the tree and stuff is underneath the stage. I found that was the best place to put it if you're not going to put it in the same dream. Or if you are going to put it in the same dream. If you're not, put it in a linked scene. Make sure that the variables like this are all on persist. So this control sensor is set to this force possession. Whenever I press square, it turns on a on switch that turns on a keyframe, turns on everything. What I did was I double tapped with X, and then while this keyframe was on recording, I just turned this off. There may still be some things you need to record with the keyframe after you do that, but double tapping with X makes it to where you can select everything, if that makes sense. As you can see by the number up here, if I click it once, it doesn't select everything. If I click it twice, then it does select everything, because now the number allows me to group more together. And I did that while it was recording. Then I pressed L1 and square. Then I changed the visibility to none, or I turned it on visible with the keyframe. And then the default is for it to be invisible, if that makes sense. So whenever we press square with a signal manipulator connected to the square button, put this on this, this on this, these settings right here for the signal manipulator. what this keyframe does is puts a signal on a keyframe that's not on keep changes. This keyframe should also change this to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, so your character can't move. You can copy my settings right here. Then I made it on not collidable and not movable. But that keyframe is also or the signal manipulator is also keeping this switch on. Which, while this is on, everything is visible. And also turns on the sun and sky, that keyframe, and also turns on your camera to where it switches cameras. And you can make your attacks however you want. Check out my animation tutorial and my how to make attacks tutorial if you guys need help making your attacks cool. You can just use emitters and do it the way you want. I hope this helps you guys out. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Dreams. I'm Young Text YouTube and Dreams. Young Text on YouTube and Twitch. Thank you guys so much for your time, and peace out. If you guys need any help with this, if you need any extra explanations, let me know in the comment section below if you guys are confused about something. Peace out, guys.